Hey, greetings, everyone. Lieutenant Colonel Alan West here, the Executive Director of the American Constitutional Rights Union and the ACLU Action Fund. And welcome to another episode of Live Free TV, brought to you by the American Constitutional Rights Union. And also check out our Constitutional Conservative Veterans Organization, the Committee to Support and Defend. That's Committee to Support and Defend as well. We're going to continue our conversation that we're having because we talked with a couple of sheriffs from the state of Maryland and what they're up against, where lawmakers have actually passed a piece of legislation signed by the governor there that will preclude them as duly elected constitutional law enforcement officers from enforcing the law. And so now we want to go from that East Coast and let's head back out to the west side of the United States of America to talk to a couple of other sheriffs who are running into some of the same challenges. And we want to learn about what is happening there because I still think this is a critical issue. Safety and security for the American people is without a doubt paramount. So we are joined with Sheriff Michael Brockett. With over 25 years of dedicated service to Curry County, New Mexico residents, Sheriff Brockett has built his career from the ground up, starting as a dispatcher for the Clovis Police Department before joining the Curry County Sheriff's Office and working his way up from patrol deputy to his current leadership position. We're also joined with Sheriff Jason Mikesell of Colorado, Teller County, which is around the Colorado Springs area. Jason Mikesell knew from a young age he was going to spend his life protecting those around him. For over 2 decades, he worked his way through the ranks to serve as commander in charge of the detention facility, commander of the operations, and commander of the SWAT team. And also becoming the sheriff, he followed in his grandfather's footsteps to become a chief of police as well. Sheriff Brockett and Sheriff Mikesell, thank you so much for joining us here at Live Free TV.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Yep. Pleasure to be here.
Let's start off with you, Sheriff Brockett. You're there in eastern New Mexico. Some of us would say western Texas. But what have been some of the challenges you've seen with illegal immigration in your area? Because as you know, people, often try to skirt right along those borders between different states. And we have a huge thoroughfare, I-40, that connects New Mexico, eastern New Mexico into western Texas as well. What have been some of the challenges you've faced?
Law enforcement in our area has kind of ebbed and flowed with the politics and where Washington, D.C. is going. When my career started, we had a very close relationship with the federal immigration services. And during that time, it was very easy when encountering illegal immigrants. It was easy to reach out and say, hey, I have an illegal immigrant here that's committed a crime, be it anywhere from a DWI up to a homicide. Can you come and help us? Can you? And the cooperation was very strong. I think we really saw under the Biden administration, that's when it really started to fall apart for us. And we really started to see that withdrawal of that cooperation to where it was very separate. It was brought to my attention, probably in January of last year when the Attorney General for New Mexico came out and put all the sheriffs on notice and told us not to participate in a 287G program. And that's really what put it on my radar. I thought, well, what's a 287G program? That sounds actually pretty interesting, right in my alley. And that's when I dove into that and started learning about the program and the benefits of the program. New Mexico, sometime within the last couple of years, I couldn't tell you specifically, but we adopted bail reform and really started to soften our penalties in law enforcement and penalties on those committing crimes. And by bail reform, everybody that was arrested within our county was being released very quickly. And oftentimes before we could even get the paperwork processed within our own department, they would be released and back out in the community reoffending. And as the sheriff, I started looking for ways that we could try and mitigate that within the state to try and keep these offenders in jail and out of the population. And really the perfect storm with that notification and learning about 287G and then bail reform, I thought that would be a great tool for us to keep our community safe and really try and get some of these criminals deported.
Sheriff Mikesell, we all were very appalled when we saw the videotape from Aurora, Colorado, when we had the Trinidad armed criminal illegal immigrants going through apartment buildings. What have been some of the challenges? What have been some of the things that you've seen that you faced down there in your county of Teller County around the Colorado Springs area?
Well, I will tell you that. So for 8 years, I've been fighting in Colorado to keep my programs running. After marijuana was legalized, we saw a huge explosion of cartels throughout Colorado, multiple types, Trindalagua, the different Mexican cartels, Russian mafia, Chinese organized crimes. It just blossomed. So I met with ICE early on 8 years ago, almost 9 years ago now, and we took on the cartels head on, even though the Colorado said that there weren't the issues with organized crime in Colorado. So ICE and I became great partners, and we were able to clean out our county with cartels in about 6 months. That's the powerful relationship of having ICE as a partner when you're dealing with criminal illegal aliens. At that point, the state of Colorado decided that they were going to stop me. So they started using the ACLU to sue law enforcement organizations. So they went after us because we were making the biggest impact in Colorado at the time. We were arresting people that were, and for the first time, we were deporting people from Cuba back to Cuba. And that was during the President Trump's first role in office. And we were having just a great impact on cartels out of Florida and all across the United States here in our county. It's a smaller county, but they found that it was a staging point for all that they could do throughout the United States. We then were able to have such an impact that the ACLU came after, started courting us, suing us. So I ended up going to court. I met with, or the ACLU called me and they said, "Hey, listen, Sheriff, if you're not going to play ball, we're going to have to sue you." And then I immediately called them back, called ICE, developed a partnership, and they basically told them, "We'll pack a lunch. We're gonna end up in a lawsuit over it then." So for 8 years, we've been battling multiple times with the ACLU over this. Every time we would win in court, the ACLU would go to the state legislative body, which is now progressive Democrat led. They would then pass a law, and then we would find what my attorney likes to call paths of least resistance to get around it. We would then start working with ICE again until about 2 years ago, they were able to finally pass a bill that stopped us from being able to work with ICE totally. And now you're seeing an explosion again in cartel activity throughout Colorado because, unfortunately, the state of Colorado won't arrest people. They want to file state charges on these folks. And the problem is that we all know that they just don't care about state charges. So the impacts in our local communities are growing. I have homicide suspects that we know have committed crimes that, unfortunately, we can't do anything with. We have gangs that are now working throughout Colorado and have the ability to do whatever they want because under Colorado law, they're being released from probation or onto probation, under parole. I had a gentleman, he had done burglaries in 2 different counties in the state. They were released them on state charges from parole, didn't use recidivism to go back after them and take them back in. They finally came to my jail, and under the 287G program, we identified him as not only a serial burglar in multiple counties under probation, but he was also a criminal illegal alien from Mexico, which at that point, we were able to hold him, give him over to ICE, and stop multiple victims throughout Colorado. So for me watching this, it's been a tragedy watching the victims of Colorado continue to get victimized, and especially if somebody's a criminal illegal alien, the fact that they'll just keep releasing them. And in our court systems now, if somebody's a criminal illegal alien, they're placed into prison, the prisons will not release to ICE. So then they'll release them right back into the communities they came from to terrorize them more. And then they're trying to force ICE into those communities to go after them there, where they could have done a peaceful transfer at a prison system or in my county jail, where it would have been a safe place to do so. I've had people come to our jail to tear down our American flag to attempt to show that ICE is not wanted there. And that turned out very badly for those people that came, because we're a county that doesn't put up with that. And I will tell you, our flag still waves above our jail, and nobody's ever been able to take it down.
Let me pose this to both of you, and I'll go to Sheriff Brockett first. One of the reasons why the American Constitutional Rights Union, we started what is called the Defender Initiative, was just for that reason. ACLU going out after constitutionally duly elected law enforcement officers, threatening them and to prevent them from enforcing the law. I think, again, a lot of people don't understand unauthorized entry into the United States of America is a federal offense. First time misdemeanor, subsequent times it's a felony offense. How does that make you feel, Sheriff Brockett, and then we'll come back to Sheriff Mikesell? I mean, when you have an attorney general, when you have so-called, the top law enforcement officer in your state, New Mexico, or when you have state legislators, supposedly lawmakers, legislators who are supposed to be creating law and making sure that we enforce our law, that goes over to the executive branch. But when people are working against you, I mean, how tough is that for you in the environment that you're in, Sheriff Brockett?
It's the erosion of the powers of the sheriff is concerning. It's that the sheriff is elected by the people and by the people of Curry County or whatever county they're in, and we represent the people and the people's interests. And so it's disheartening to me when I get so much support in my community and I get handshakes and I get so much appreciation from my community for fighting this fight and for doing what I can to keep our community safe. But at the same time, I've got legislators in Santa Fe that are telling my community how they want it. And what works or doesn't work in Santa Fe and Albuquerque, obviously that's not what we want in our region. And so I think to strip away the sheriff's ability to represent the people, I think it's terrible. And it's challenging to maintain that fight and to fight Santa Fe and fight those legislators when you have, like you said, the attorney general coming down and sending us emails telling us you don't want to do that, there'll be lawsuits, and it's disheartening.
Yeah, it's very weird to me that people are filing lawsuits against law enforcement for enforcing the law. Sheriff Mikesell, you brought up the safety and security. You would think that would be a preeminent issue for these legislators there in Colorado, and to include the governor, Jared Polis, with whom I served in Congress. What is it that they are placing their ideological agenda, ideological rights over that of constitutional rights and protecting the citizens of their state and your county?
Well, and I think it's bigger than those things. It's money. And here's what I'm going to tell you. Like in our state, our attorney general is suing right now a deputy for doing his job working with ICE. That deputy had left his agency now and is now working for ICE. The thing that we're seeing here is that the state of Colorado set up a fund. So the fees and fines of up to $50,000 that are assigned against a law enforcement officer for assisting ICE with even a phone call right now goes to a fund that pays the ACLU to sue us again. That's what's happening. Now, here's the other side of it, though.
Can you repeat that so that everyone gets it? I mean,
so the
you
Colorado
have yes. Go ahead.
The Colorado legislature put into effect basically an account. So if I'm sued as a law enforcement officer, I have to pay through personal liability. A county can't step in up to $50,000 that goes to an account because the attorney general does your lawsuit or the ACLU sues you. That fine then is moved to that account, and they use that to pay then law firms to sue us again or to sue for immigration violations and issues that would affect criminal illegal aliens in the state. Here's the bigger side of that. Right now, the reason why I believe the Democrats are doing a lot of these things is because, and you have to understand, in this state right now, we're pushing back against the president of the United States on everything. Mm-hmm. That is to raise money for the Democratic Party going into midterm elections. That's why they're doing it. I've talked to the Mexican pastors of Colorado that sit in downtown Denver. Most are unaffiliated Democrat. They're not happy even with the issues because what they're feeling like is they're being used as the victimization piece for Colorado Democrats to raise money based on them saying they're being victimized when they feel like these people that are being released from jail are victimizing their groups anyways, and that they don't truly get any representation from the state of Colorado, but they're just being used to portray them as victims when they're not, and that they really don't want these people back in their communities anyways. And then the state of Colorado forces these people to be released back into the communities. ICE comes in, and then you see the Democrats like Polis running big fundraisers to raise money for the Democratic Party to fight the president of the United States. Look, we're really facing right now at this point in time, because now they're saying they're going to go after ICE for having face masks and everything else. We're facing a point where the state of Colorado is saying, hey, federal government, we're no longer going to prescribe to your laws. That's the bigger issue for the Constitution, I think,
Yes.
in this
Yes.
state and in our country. Because really what I'm seeing is that, listen, if we as a state push back, that's what the Civil War was fought over. The issues, too, is that counties in the state of Colorado are now being forced by the state of Colorado saying, you will prescribe to our laws. Counties now are pushing back and going, well, wait a second. If you're saying you're not going to follow federal law, why would we follow state law?
Mhm.
So we're creating this anarchy issue within our own states and counties based on this issue that I think people are just getting sick of. The other side of it is they're cutting off funding from the federal government, which, look, we're not working with the federal government. We're saying we're not going to prescribe to these laws in the biggest cities in Colorado. Now we're saying that we're going to take law enforcement agencies, force them into conflict with federal agencies that are attempting to do their jobs. There's no good end to this. And it scares me as the direction of the state of Colorado and what they're trying to do right now. Because at the end of the day, we have one constitution, we are one country, and we have Democrats that are pulling away saying that we're our own separate entity at this point.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, because that comes back to Article 6, Section 2 of the Constitution, known as the Supremacy Clause, which says that the federal government, the United States, when they are in pursuance thereof to the rule of law, to the Constitution, they are supreme over the states and lower jurisdictions, being cities, municipalities. So this whole thing about creating these sanctuary states or sanctuary cities, or saying that we're not going to follow federal law because we just don't like it because it goes against our agenda, that's unconstitutional. And so, Sheriff Brockett, coming back to you, you are, again, a duly elected by the people constitutional law enforcement officer. It seems to me that it's very easy grounds for you to stand and say, hey, time out on the court, coach. You cannot come down and direct me not to follow the law, which is in essence what you're doing. So, do you see more sheriffs in the state of New Mexico, maybe, standing up, letting their voice be heard to say that you really, there in Santa Fe, the governor and other entities in New Mexico, the attorney general, you're overstepping. You're what they call it, getting out over your skis a little bit.
Honestly, I feel like this state this year, they're very tactical on how they pass laws down the Santa Fe, how they pass it to us. And I don't know if you're seeing the same thing in Colorado, but they'll put together a very big, nasty bill. Like this year was a gun bill. They called it the Gun Trafficking Safety Act. And it was essentially outlawing most firearms to be sold in New Mexico. They weren't banning firearms, but they were banning the sale of firearms and magazines. And so it acts like a magnet for the rest of us. And we start looking at this big bill, this big consequence. And while we're trying to concentrate and fight on that bill, on the sidelines, they start passing through these other ones, little snippets here and there. It's like the magic trick of look at this hand, but don't look at the hands behind my back and see what we're passing. And an example or case in point, out of nowhere, they tried to pass a bill that was going to say a law enforcement officer couldn't carry a gun at a polling place. And that's on duty, off duty. There is no guns that get to be allowed at polling places. And obviously that's a huge problem for law enforcement. We work very closely with our county clerk, and we help secure and ensure a safe environment to vote. But we also are involved in collecting ballots in rural New Mexico, where we're picking up these ballots and moving them back to the county clerk to count. And so it's not just immigration, it's all these other little areas where the attack on law enforcement is real. And the meaning behind the push on of stripping law enforcement the ability to carry a gun went directly back to ICE and the state thinking that they can regulate ICE officers now and tell ICE officers that you can't come within 100 meters of a polling place with your firearm. And it's just ridiculous. It's obviously unconstitutional. There's nothing that supports that type of decision. And luckily this time that bill is still out in committee, so we'll see what happens next year when we get back into the session. But it's across the board, the attacks on trying to limit what we can do and where we're going to protect our communities.
You know, it's weird to me because they want the ICE officers to not have any type of face coverings, but they don't say anything about Islamic jihadists or those people that are protesting it, you know, for to support Hamas or Antifa or some of these others. And we've had a big issue with some Antifa related organizations here in the Dallas County area where I live. Final question I want to pose to both of you. We'll start with Sheriff Mikesell first, and then we'll go to Sheriff Brockett. Where does this go from here? I mean, when you are talking about a fund is created in the state of Colorado to enable the ACLU to attack law enforcement officers, when you talk about what you experienced there from your Attorney General, Sheriff Brockett, I just want to know, where do you see this going? I mean, and this is very prevalent in blue states, but also in certain jurisdictions in a state like Texas, where I live in Dallas County. I wish we had a sheriff like you two guys here that was working with ICE under the 287G program, keeping criminal and illegal immigrants off the streets. But look into your crystal ball and tell our viewers and listeners what the real consequences and ramifications if we don't correct this going forward.
Well, Alan, we're actually already seeing it here in Colorado, right? We have one of the highest crime rates in the United States now. We had one of the lowest 10 years ago. We have one of the highest thefts of automobiles in the United States. We had almost none prior. These types of liberal agendas and attacks on Constitution are destroying our state. We went from one of the West states, right? One of the states has freedom, just like the sheriff here also. We now are more like California in our policies, but probably 10 times as bad is where we've gone. And look, it's making people stand up. And I think it's making Americans wake up. And that may be one of the things that may come out of this that's good to understand. Because when you have young mothers that are afraid to walk through a parking lot at night because of being attacked, and if it's immigrant crime or criminal illegal alien, they're probably going to be let go because they don't want to show those numbers showing that the crimes have risen. We're turning a blind eye on all types of crimes. And I'll be honest, I'm not the only one. There are sheriffs across the state that stood up against these laws. The problem is in that you have a state that then goes after each deputy.
Yeah.
And you have to watch your deputies get sued because they know that they can't do anything to you and that you're going to fight them and be a voice, to where now they're trying to legislate taking away the sheriff's authorities to stop us from speaking out. And they'll probably get it done at some point. We fight that constantly. I'm actually running for governor in Colorado because of it. That was one of the reasons I started my run on this. It's resounding with people because they're tired from all sides, Democrat, Republicans, independents across the board. People are tired. But the problem is the process to get your state back from the brink of what the destruction is going to be. And let's say it's total anarchy, right? It's the fact that criminals rule, that the Constitution is looked at as a document that was written 100 years ago and they don't care, or 150 years ago now. Those are the problems that we're seeing in the United States. We're one of the most well-educated states. We have the most colleges. And guess what? We have the last thought when it comes to the Constitution of any state. And that's a problem all across the United States, but it's really showing its ugly head here. It's destroying families and communities. I went to Washington, D.C. a few years ago and met with President Trump with all the sheriffs that were standing up with it. And I sat and talked to the victims of criminal illegal alien crimes. I was shocked at how they were so mistreated by the system because it was a criminal illegal alien that did the crime. That's what just bothers me to no end. To know that we've broken down that much in this country that we can no longer, as sheriffs or law enforcement, protect our citizens from the types of crimes because of someone coming here from another country. And that being the difference on whether somebody gets to walk on it or not. But if my deputies have a mistake, they persecute them to the ends of the earth. Those are all things that we're starting to see across Colorado. And I'm telling you, I feel for any sheriff having to deal with it as it's coming through, because I'll tell you, once you get a progressive Democratic legislative body in place in your House and in your Senate, and then here, like you have single party rule for all the different positions, you are in trouble as a state. And that's what we've seen.
Sheriff Brockett?
Yeah, the crystal ball is not needed for sure. We're already seeing the effects, and we've seen the effects of the lack of the pull away from ICE and the pull away from Border Patrol. As a border state, we do have that cross-border issue and the smuggling issue on a regular basis. Just across the county line to the south of me, we had an illegal immigrant that was released from jail and right away got in a car drunk and ended up killing somebody. And that's somebody that was somebody that didn't have to die. That was a situation that didn't have to happen. And had 287G been fully utilized and had the system been working the way our citizens expect that we're working, the way they expect law enforcement works together, then somebody would be alive right now. So it's terrible. I worry about our state and I worry about our union. I don't know that I've ever seen such a division before and such a fight against law enforcement and against the people that are on the line trying to do the job.
Well, I want to thank you both, Sheriff Jason Mikesell, also candidate for governor of the state of Colorado. How can people follow you, your agency, your website, and your campaign?
Absolutely. So you can find me at Mikesell, Mikesell, the number 4, gov.com. And please follow me. Hopefully we can take back Colorado.
And Sheriff Michael Brockett, how can people follow you down at Curry County, New Mexico?
We're on Facebook. The Curry County Sheriff's Office is on Facebook, and welcome to get on board and start following us.
Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to remind you of the scene that we saw at the most recent State of the Union address when a very simple question was posed to federal legislators. When President Trump asked them, if you believe that the duty and responsibility of the American government is to protect American citizens and not people that are here, illegal immigrants, please stand. And I think what these sheriffs are articulating to us is that there was one side that clearly said, we don't care about the American citizen. We don't care about their safety and security. We care about our ideological agenda. And you've got to consider that. Where do I think this ends up? Without a doubt, we cannot have two Americas. We cannot have states that believe that they are above the law, which means our rule of law, our Constitution. And we have to have an adjudication thereof. But that adjudication only comes if you, the people, as Benjamin Franklin said, understand that you have a republic if you can keep it. And that's why we here at the American Constitutional Rights Union will continue to stand for our Constitution and will continue to be a voice for sheriffs such as these two great men who are recipients of our Defender Initiative Award. So God bless you all. Thanks so much for being with us. And thanks for being a part of this episode of Live Free TV. God bless. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.